13 Questions by Man Transcending. Manhood in the Digital Age.
Welcome back to another episode of 13 Questions. I have with me, as always, Adam Loyal, and this episode's guest is Louie from Uncanny Mystic Minds Podcast. And but before we get into the interview portion of the show, Adam and I have a honorary at this point, traditional gratitude jingle that we would like to play for our listeners, and the point of the jingle is to kind of facilitate Adam and I's introduction of just something to talk about that we are grateful for. And in doing this, we connect to the heart and mind together, and we get them moving in one direction and energy flowing and all that good stuff. So this is just something that we like to do that we have been doing since we've got the jingle, which is provided to you by Sir Felix Ortega. When you can find his songs and music at sirfelixortega.bandcamp. Wait, is it? Adam, what is it? I forgot.
It's in the show notes, Bill.
No, it is. It's in the show notes. Scroll down to the show notes and you'll find a link to Sir Felix's Bandcamp page. He's got a lot of great songs on there. It's not just this awesome gratitude one, but yeah. Anyway.
And also, he is the leader of this ritual. The gratitude jingle in the gratitude jar.
Gratitude, 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 oh gratitude. Gratitude, 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 oh gratitude.
What were you thinking about for this episode, Adam?
My gratitude is companionship. And I mean that in our companionship with plants. I've been nice storms rolling through today, been fighting some headaches and been using some very good plant medicines, and just the technology of isolating things from roots and being able to make a simple product like Alka-Seltzer. It is a companion plant that we can integrate into ourselves, and vice versa in the same way. You are my companion, and we can lean on each other, and we can improve each other and make better things. And I don't know, it's just the gratitude of seeing the world in which you can have companionship with plants, with your food, with medicine, with friends, and things on their own put together. Things on their own aren't always as great, but when you mix them together, I don't know, things get better.
Magic, right?
Yeah,
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Exactly. Decided to have companionship with some plants tonight, and my head hurts less. Decided to have some companionships with some friends, and my heart is open and warm. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good thing. Companionship.
It is. And I like how you started with the plant. Well, you brought up the plant aspect of it, because that to me is a solution, right? You had an issue, right? And you were able to find a solution to address said issue. And that was my gratitude, was just solutions in general. I think that in doing this podcast, 13 Questions, I would like to think that we pointed out some practical things that people can pull away from listening to our conversations, whether they be like, mental tricks or like physical things you can buy, like Cacao or red light therapy or anything from Derek's store, right? So, solutions. I think that something that not a lot of people talk about, that I'm hearing anyway, right? A lot of people like to complain, but nobody offers anything instead. At least not majority of media that's out there nowadays. So yeah, solutions. And oftentimes, you need a companion of some sort to get a solution, whether that's someone to tell you about the solution or a plant that actually is part of a physical solution, right? So tied in pretty nicely, I'd say, right?
With a bow.
Yeah. So we are a value for value show, which means that we don't have a paywall or anything like that. But if you would like to support the show, the best way to do that is to share it or leave a review. I don't think we've asked for reviews yet at all. So
leave a review, but more importantly, tell your friends, tell people. If you gain something from the show, don't be selfish. Share.
Yep. Spread the word. I know our downloads are increasing, so the word is getting out there. So thank you for everybody that has done so far. And this thing is just going to continue to grow, and we're going to see where it goes.
That's right. There's a lot of kindling out there. We just got to keep fanning the flames.
And if you do decide that you want to make a donation to the show of any amount for any period of time, we do have a gratitude jar working as another value to offer the listeners. And what this does is we write your name in purple ink and put it in a jar that is surrounded by what I'm calling at this point stones or minerals or crystals of the violet ray. And we've covered those in episodes 98 through 108. So definitely go and check out those episodes if you want to learn about some metaphysical properties of crystals in the introductions, at least, if not for the wonderful conversations following.
Exactly. And help us, keep the lights on, keep things running. There are hosting fees. And if you haven't, if you've been listening for a while, you've probably noticed our quality continues to improve as we get equipment and donations coming in. We're able to upgrade and bring you a better show. And yeah, it all takes a lot of time and effort, and it really means a lot when you guys support us and help us make this thing grow. Because we can surely not do it without you. Both with your fiat currency, your time, your talent, your sharing, and letting other people know. Because we are here because you are here to listen, and it's up to you. It's all on you.
Which is great because you're an immortal being of light that is capable of anything.
That's right. That's right. We're in this together. Eternity, all of us, everything is one.
So with that, this is 13 Questions with Louie from Uncanny Mystic Minds Podcast. All right, well, let's get started and we'll just dive right in with the question. First question number one. What does it mean to be a man in today's world?
I like it. Well, what first came in my head is especially considering today's. And then I think the more formal, my initial answer would be something along the lines of being able to sustain yourself, and if you have a family, sustain your family, to be able to take care of yourself. That's more of my inherent quick answer. And then when I think about in today's world, that's when it gets more not dicier, but just a little bit more. That's when you got to think a little bit more. And I think it's important here to not be so much of a follower. I think that's a huge thing. It's almost like a type of a type of virus or something like that. You know how things are contagious. If I yawn, then the person next to me might yawn, things like that, right? Yeah. So you've even seen these experiments, or I saw these videos where people would get in an elevator and one guy would do a funny gesture, or maybe be turned around the other way, and then because of the copycat syndrome, everyone else would start to follow that one person who seemed like the alpha, even if they were doing a funny bumbly move. And then I think that's a lot of like, that's like where a lot of stuff kind of gets lost, because people want to fit in, and then they'll be so quick to like to kind of have that copycat syndrome. And then I think after that, a byproduct is like you're not able to think as much for yourself. And so I think currently a man is to be able to, a requisite is to be able to stand on your own and to recognize your thoughts and know that those are the foundational things for you, and to kind of not compromise that, to establish your boundaries on that. And I think with that, that's where like the authenticity will come out after that too, which is like really important for that. And yeah, so I think that's a kind of important little piece for that. And but on top of that, to be a man for sure is to, if you have your family, take care of your family, as best you can, and your friends, whoever your close friends are, if you have any. And nourish is like a word that is really coming in, because people could be there, you see it sometimes, or people will do the in and outs, of being a man, like say like in fatherhood, but maybe like the nourishment or like the quality of their daily things, it kind of ends up just getting mundane. So I think like nourishing is like pretty important. And then for nourishing, it's like teach them what you know, and then and even teach them like the opposite. Like if there's something you're not that good at, you can let them know, so you can, it's like, hey, do the opposite of me in that way, like however you can get the point across. And so I think nourishing is also that's like nurturing, and also to be like accountable, especially when they say like that old phrase, stand by your word, like a man stands by his word. Like that's very true. So that way people believe you, that you're not full of just fluff and whatever, that when you say something, that your word is really accountable, that there's no doubt, like pretty much no doubt, that you're about your word. So yeah, that's another, I think, important thing for manhood,
Yeah, it goes, along with being authentic and honest, right? Accountability is standing by your word, right? But I like you pointed out nourish, and that really spoke to me, because we were talking about being able to sustain yourself and your family. What I was thinking of was being able to hold space for not only yourself, but I mean, especially if you have a family, be able to create space in which they can be safe and flourish, right? If you nourish them, they will flourish.
Yeah, yeah, right. It rhymes for a reason.
Exactly. Word
Yeah,
man.
yeah, no, and yeah, you want to be, even if you're not like the most social guy, that you still want to be able to be solid, like whenever you are in a situation, because no one's a complete hermit, you know what I mean? And so whenever you are putting yourself out there to be like solid in that way, so like people can feel like safe and like that you're dependable, I know, because here things come and go, like money comes and goes, our toys come and go, whatever toys you had, prestige comes and goes. So it's like your dependability, and if people feel like comfortable with you and able to roll with you, I think that really counts, for like manhood. That way you could, when you shake another man's hand, you know that you can believe them, and that you'll go wherever they say they're going to go, because you believe in them, and you believe that they're not lying and stuff like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. The relationships that we have in our lives are really most important, not the things, or things that come and go, right? But what are the things that stay? And it's
yeah,
other people, hopefully.
yeah.
All right. Question number 2. What was the best advice ever given to you? And would you modify it at all today?
That's a good one. So it's like, with this question, my mind immediately starts to like get like kind of racy in terms of like I want to go to like some deep shit. You know what I mean? Initially, like some metaphysical stuff or some stuff that maybe like a yogi or a Buddhist would have said, or I don't know. But what sticks out in my head is God, this was a long time ago when I first started going to dance clubs. And I like one of my passions of creativity is dancing. And through my friends and other like mentors, I had learned street dancing from various people in the Bay Area. And one of my mentors, still to this day, but back then, like we would hang out with him and stuff like that. So he was like an OG, and we were like kids. We were just barely able to get in the club. And he was, God, he must be, I don't know, close to 20 years older than us or something. So he was like one of our mentors. And it was one of our first nights at a dance club going out with him. And a bunch of my buddies were dancing like in a circle or this and that. And they were kind of like, they would kind of not show off to him, but kind of exhibit, kind of display their stuff for this mentor or for one of our dance mentors. And when I did it, when I busted a little bit of moves for him, he came up to me, and this was like one of the first times that I had met him, and he came up to me and he told me, he was like, "Don't pop in your mind," because the style of dancing that we were doing back then, which had changed, but back then it was called popping, and he was like, "Don't pop in your mind," and I'm like, "Okay," and so I was like, "Well, so what's going on?" And so pretty much it let me know that I was in my own head too much. And then, so that's why this is something that resonated with me, because a lot of times when, at least for me, when I stress myself out, if I stress myself out, it's because I'm in my own head too much. And you kind of have to get out of your head. And then through the years too, I learned that like you want to be like a part of what comes with being of service is to kind of be able to display yourself. That's why I'm doing it now, with like this podcast and stuff, so to kind of do my part to display myself, to share, to be of service, right? And so it's stuck with me all through that time, in a sense of like, you got to make sure you do your best to stay out of your mind, because our mind is already going. Our mind is already doing its own. It's already going. So we just have to kind of be with it, kind of how, like in a meditation, you kind of just witness it or you observe it, So we're already always going. So you want to be able to make sure to have the aspect to get outside of yourself. And then that's where the display comes, or like the showmanship comes. And then that's where it'll help you. It'll help you with like magnetism, and it'll help you get things in life too, because people also like that. People want that. And so it's like a part of sharing. So I think it's a way to share correctly, is to not be absorbed like in your own head so much. And then so that's kind of something that stuck with me, that I cherish, or that I resonate with a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. The being in your own head is like being in your own way, right?
Yeah.
It's always hard to get. It's the hardest thing to do, is to get out of your own way. So yeah, that makes sense to open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was just such a mindfuck at that time, because you got to consider it's like a very technical dance, and so you have to really think about your technicalities, and so that's a lot of your left brain, right? And so it was a trip. It was a trip that, like, that I had to just like try to do my best to leave that at the same time, So it's like, yeah, it's like an oxymoron, but I guess that's why I brought it up, because it's something that never left. Yeah, and how I would change it right now is because through the years of being in, I wasn't so deep in that scene, but I was in it enough. And through the years, you adapt and you learn about like other histories that were other aspects of the history of the dance history, and then especially in your region, in your area. And then so I adapted to changing, like my style. And then that was something that took, like, it was very hard to completely change styles as well. So that was something else that I had to you had to completely reboot your system. So that's another that just kind of further goes along with getting out of your head, because all that shit that I learned for years, I had to throw it out again. I had to kind of throw it away. And then I had to learn that the more you hold on to these old styles, it's almost like a cancer for the new styles. You have to really let go of it. You have to really kind of throw it away.
Because is it constantly changing then? Because
yeah, well, things change with the time, but then what I was doing is that I was adjusting I was just changing my style for what I was resonating with more, and so the lesson was to you have to completely forget all that old stuff, and it kind of hurt in a way because you spent so much time trying to learn something, but then I had to learn that I had to get rid of it. And it was something that even my friends kind of had seen them deal with the same thing that I was dealing with, and a lot of them couldn't. A lot of them didn't and couldn't want to do it. You let go of stuff. It's like a prideful thing. To be able to let go of something that you spent so much time and effort and sweat on. Yeah.
Right. No, that's so interesting. I'm from the Midwest, like we were talking before the show. There's no dance scene that I know of from when I grew up. So hearing about this is so super interesting.
Yeah. Did you ever hear of the '80s movie? It's the Breakin' Electric Boogaloo movies from the '80s. They were called Breakin', and then they were called Electric Boogaloo.
I mean, it rings a bell. The Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, these movies got popular in the '80s, and then they blew up the culture across the country. And I guess what had happened with that culture boom is that people had thought that was the originators of the dance, was that style, but it actually wasn't. It was it was actually here in the Bay Area with the pioneers over here. A lot of politics and things like that happened, and so they got overshadowed, especially once that '80s movie stuff hit. And so it's kind of funny, a lot of different. It's a lot of politics, even though it's a street. Even though it's a street thing, So it's kind of fun. Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. What do you willfully ignore?
This one's kind of stumpy. This one's a bit of a stumper. And what do I wolf? Because I honestly feel that I try to catch everything. I feel this is kind of hard, but I think something that I'm stubborn on is when to rest, or when to take downtime. It's almost I must have I guess it's a type of character flaw. It's I think I have a type of restlessness, and so this could be something that I carry out, whether it's restlessness in my brain, whether I'm just soaking up information, or whether it's physically, at the gym, I might just try to keep on going extra days when I know I know better. I should take a day off or two. And so, because I know that in terms of energy and making things work and setting yourself up, you need a proper adequate downtime, rest time, because and even for your brain, you need quiet time and stuff like that. And so I think something that I ignore is that I push back is when to have the downtime, when to have the rest time, because even how it's scientifically proven that for working out, it's you can you don't get the muscles at the gym when you're busting weights. You get it when you go home and eat and you rest. And in that rest period is when the growth actually happens. The gym is just the stimulation part. And so I realized that you have to set yourself up to ensure the rest. And that way, when the next time you do decide to go to the gym, then that's when you bang it out. And then that's when you're able to get those progressive moments, is when you're able to bang it out hard. Because if you just keep going consistently and not letting yourself rest, you're gonna do a bunch of like a bunch of blah workouts, like medium-ish workouts. And then for like goals, and even like in terms of like magic, it doesn't work like that. Like you have to give something time to charge, so to speak. You have to give it the time for that. And then the more you set something up in time, the harder it's going to boom later on. Like your goal is going to hit harder as long as if you prepped it with enough like rest, and it's just care, like rest is it's showing that you care about it in a different way. It's the more feminine way, like the more passive way, like the more yin out of yin and yang, it's more yin. So that might be an aspect that sometimes I neglect, or like that I willfully ignore, because sometimes I just want to like push it, and so I think that's something that's a bit of a flaw that I'm working on it, and I keep telling myself, well, you got to really be disciplined, because once you're really disciplined and you really know what you want, then that's when you stick to your guns, and so and you find compromises. You know what I mean? You got to make plans to find yourself compromises in order to get those things done, and so it kind of works out like that.
I think I get what you're saying with the restlessness. Like I have a lot of like energy, extra energy. I've got fidgeting with two stones right now. Like I don't know. Do you think that kind of might stem from the fact that maybe we realize that time is kind of a construct, so it's just kind of a hindrance? I don't know if the hindrance is the right word, but not in to say that it's unnecessary, but just the fact that we want to see results, right? And we're doing it now, right?
Yeah. It's like a catch-22, because I could tell too, like I can tell with you, like you have a lot of energy as well, and so it's like weird. So that's why I kind of get away with it sometimes, because I do have kind of a lot of energy, but at the same time, I realize that if I want to set things up better, you kind of have to like do it with it's all about cycles. Like the harder the harder you hit something, or the bigger you want something, you also have to give it the opposite kind of time to kind of let it, like kind of like peaks and valleys. You have to let it come in and out, kind of like bob and weave, and then that kind of helps with like flow, but yeah, it's I guess it's like for me, it's like a lot. It's like knowledge or something. Like I have like an insatiable, like I want to keep on learning. And then I realize that, well, if you try to learn about so much stuff, you're going to like spread it out so thin that it's not going to be concentrated. So that's kind of like what I'm getting at with that. Yeah. Because like, it's hard to find a specialty, or like to really focus on something good when you spread your wings out too much, you spread yourself too thin.
There's so much information now too, like especially if you know where to look. Like, there's like if you want to know about something, you can learn about anything nowadays, right?
Yeah, and it can be like stimulation overload. You know what I mean? For sure. Yeah, and so so it's like I catch myself being overstimulated or overworked. Like I'll overwork myself, because I have a job too, and then so I'll do stuff, and then I gotta also work, and then you find out like, oh man, I'm like worn the hell out. Like I should have planned my week better to make sure I don't wear myself out. So that's like something now that the last couple of weeks, maybe months, that I try to be more conscientious about, I want my energy to be more even throughout the week instead of like super peaks and valleys. Yeah.
Are you a coffee drinker?
Tea. Well, I like coffee, but this is tea right now. Yeah, it's like nighttime. If I drink coffee right now, holy shit, I know I'll go to bed.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I got a lot of tea.
Right on. All right. What question number 4? What book has been most influential on your life, and why?
Well, it's funny because my answer is like kind of ironic, I guess, a little bit. It's influential because Well, okay, I'm just gonna uh most recently, the book that's been the most influential, I would say, is A Course in Miracles. And the reason why is not because I'm all about it now. I mean, I incorporate stuff, like there's stuff to incorporate, don't get me wrong, but the reason why it's influential is because I've been on this kick maybe the last year, roughly 8 months. I've been on this kick where I've been unprogramming myself, unraveling myself, unhypnotizing myself, whatever you want to call it, out of that stuff because I was so in it that I realized what was happening way later on because I got into this book. Geez, when was this? I want to say about roughly maybe almost 5 years ago. And so that's when I got into the book and I got super deep in it. And I had based a lot of my spirituality on that. I had said like back in the day that between that and like the law of one, the raw material, the channeled work, both from around the same times in the 80s or late 70s, they were like big like cornerstones for my stuff or like just my information and like spiritual stances. And but what's happened the last half a year or so, at least, is that I've been coming to grips with undoing all that stuff. I had programmed myself so much. I had immersed myself so much in that book. And it's like a dense book, you know what I mean? Like the first couple of weeks, like it was hard to even read it, like, because it's like in this Shakespearean pentameter. It's kind of like, and it's like old English sounding or something, and kind of poetic. And so it takes a while, like you can't read it like fast like a regular book. And then so it took me like a couple months to be able to read it, like to feel like it's like a normal book sort of. And then after that, it's just so deep and there's so much in it. And um, I realized that this was something that I had to start unwinding in myself. I learned about how it was tied to a lot of like CIA stuff, a lot of like just kind of brainwashing type of stuff. I had learned that it had foundations in that, and but I found out this stuff before I knew that I had to make a change with that, because this was something that was giving me, what do you call that? Like the toxic positivity or something like that, like a toxic spirituality where it was making me too positive, like I was forcing the positivity.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then in a way, I felt later on like a dog that was chasing his own tail to try to be good or to try to be righteous. And so it was kind of like a little bit of a mind fuck because I had immersed myself so much in it. And then there was also like an ego thing where like my pride got like kind of a little bit hurt because I realized that like, damn, I kind of like duped myself. Like I kind of really fell into that one. And in the end, I don't blame myself. And now I'm really happy because now just lately, I feel like I can talk about it. And I'm like, okay, because like even a couple months ago, I was still trying to like articulate and express words about where I'm at because I was getting away from such of a mentality that I was used to. And, but I feel better now. I feel like I've come to grips with it a lot and I don't hold it, like I don't hold anything against it. I see it for what it is. And there's even stuff in its own way. There's even stuff to still take from it in a sense. It's just that like I had to like completely back up and back away from that stuff because it can be culty. Like once you get in it, it's like it can be very culty for the people that are all about oneness because I'm all about oneness, and but the thing is, though, here, if you ride that too hard, it can like bite you back in the butt. And then it's like a dog chasing his own tail. And then you're never really there. Like they make you think you're there. And later on, what happens is it takes away your thinking, like to be able to be a rational thinker and a creative thinker. It helps, it kind of sets you up to be more of like a default person um, and like a very predictable person. And I think that's kind of dangerous in a way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I appreciate the approach to the question, though, about how the book was not necessarily like a good influence. I mean, ultimately, it was because you were able to learn from it, right? But
Yeah, like now that I've come back around, so it's like been a process, like yeah, because but
super.
that's what happens. That's like a part of life, you know what I mean? And now I feel way better because now I feel like before I was like shunning duality, and then now I embrace duality, but at the same time I don't. So like now I feel like I have it, like I feel like I'm incorporating it all, as opposed to before I was being very shunning in a way. And so yeah, I feel much better about myself. I feel like I just feel more real. And now in hindsight, now that I'm here, I see just how much programming and brainwashing goes into that type of stuff. It's really trying to get you to forget a part of yourself, to just kind of mix in and to blend in, to be kind of hive-minded-ish. And like in the beginning of our talk, I was talking about like the very first thing that I said, like to be a man is to like to not follow them so much, especially like around here. It's like so quick for people to want to follow each other. And so, yeah, that's like where a lot of trapping happens. And, I'm not for that. I want to have this as free as we can be,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it links back into that beyond being authentic to yourself. That is the best defense. If you know thyself, then others can't live in and through you.
Yeah. And it's like with authenticity, I think about the first thing I think about is like your soul. Like if you follow your soul's urge, like your soul has its own urge, right? Like it's like unique urge, because all our souls are unique, like a snowflake. And what the Course in Miracles is trying to do, it literally told you over and over again that you're not special, you're not special. So what do you say to yourself when you're being told you're not special, that I'm not unique? And then therefore, if you take away your uniqueness, where's your soul? And then that's like the ultimate devil card for me, is when someone snatches the soul. You know what I mean? It's trying to get your soul to blend in one big, I don't know, like some kind of default soul, when the soul should not be default. It should be like unique and like very pristine and very obvious and full of character. Like that's where the character is in life, is through the soul. The spirit is more like the all-encompassing one, the one that's like the one great spirit, right? But I think through the soul is where you embrace the differences of like your uniqueness and like your true urges, that make you you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I said, I don't think that we've had a guest come up with an answer that was like in that way that it affected them. So I definitely appreciate this to it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm just going as I go too. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I certainly don't have all the answers. I'm on this freaking path with you guys and everyone else. You know what I mean? We're all in it together, and we're all trying to. And that's the good thing, is we're fighting each other little by little, and we're getting strength little by little. I think we are. You know what I mean? Because I feel stronger, like more united in a way. And so
And then be able to speak out too, like talk about it. Like talk
yeah,
about these things, and I have podcasts, and like it's definitely it's been part of the healing and growing process for me. Right, being able to do this show has been awesome.
yeah, man. This is like a type of like, it's like a therapeutic. There's like therapeutic aspects to it. There's fun. It's like fun and social. That's another thing. And there's things that like that we have to release, like things that are on our chest, because a lot of my episodes that I make are just things that are on my chest, or things that have been on my mind. And then so it's like I want to express them, and maybe write it down or express them, or just go off the cuff and talk about it. And that's the big release. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, especially, we can get weird with all the shit that we be into sometimes. So regular people might not want to hear what we got to say. And so, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. But yeah, it's nice to be able to get some stuff out sometimes that typically might not get heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if someone hears something that they think differently about, then they can make their own podcast, right? Hopefully. I mean,
the nice thing is that when people have more information little by little, as a lot of more people get more information, it helps people with making decisions. And then maybe they might change their mind about certain things down the road. Who knows, right? So that's like another cool benefit of that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 6. If I were to ask your best friend, what is the one thing they would say you need to work on most? Why?
All right. Well, geez, you got some good questions. So I guess a trait that some of my close buddies would notice, they would kind of laugh at it in a way. They didn't take it seriously that much, but it was kind of there, They would notice that just how sometimes my fuse would be so quick in terms of my temperament. Um, and so maybe that stems from like impatience, but I think it's more of a temperamental thing. And I would be quick. I would be just too quick to get hot sometimes. And then they would even laugh at me because they were like, no, that's just like, they just almost didn't want to believe it. You know what I mean? And so it's something that through the years I've worked on so much that I'm like, now I feel like I'm a different person. But back in the day, I guess I had a quick temperament where I would be quick to get hot, and so that would be something that they would probably say that was one of my main things, that one of my character traits.
And that was towards others or with yourself or just...
What can I say? It's like, I didn't have like a reputation for my temperament. I don't think, not like that, but maybe a little bit. But people, I don't know. I think people thought it was funny, because for example, like in sports, you know what I mean? Like whether it was like soccer or like football, they would kind of have me. They would use me as one of the guys to be kind of like an enforcer sometimes. You know what I mean? They'd be like, "Oh, he's hot enough to be able to get in to stick it to someone if need be. If somebody had to get it, they would tell me to get them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And but that was through the years, like one of the things that I try to do is that I always try to work on like my biggest flaws. And so like anger or temperament issues is something that I have, that I work on all the time. And so now I like to say I'm like kind of like a the changed person per se. I'm not perfect, but I've definitely changed a lot for sure. It's just one of the main things that I made sure I try to learn, that I've tried to learn throughout the years. Between that and not relying on other people's opinions, I guess, like a codependency. Those are probably like two things that I had to kind of work on the most. And so I feel like I've made pretty significant strides in that, considering where I was at to start.
What rule do you have for yourself that you never break, and why do you think that it's important?
Geez, what rule do I have? Well, I don't have a rule, but I guess something that's kind of like a rule is that I really trust myself, because a lot of times, sometimes people try to get me off my opinion or like off my stances or off my guns. And like, we all have our own experiences, and then they haven't necessarily experienced what I've experienced. And so how could they know, how could they know it? Because they haven't been in my shoes per se. Right. So, I really I really kind of have this trust in me because I trust my path with like the universe and like with God, because I throughout the years and all the time, I always get my, like, I guess if you want to call them like my signs or like my synchronicities. And I love it when my life gets all tied together, like all these different random things get all tied into like one nice bow. And then it lets me know, like, oh, so this whole time I have been okay. Like I have been on the right path, because like later on, it keeps on letting me know in a nice way. It kind of ties it up like in a nice package or a nice little bow. And and then so it lets me know that don't buy into people's stuff, especially, people sometimes, like even the ones that care about you will try to do it to you, whether they mean ill or not, or people who don't like you will try to do that to you. So now I kind of trust myself no matter what, you know what I mean? And I know that I'll end up figuring it out no matter what, because I do my best to try to go about things in terms of like finding out, like just like truth, you know what I mean? And so and keeping an open mind. And so I naturally have the open mind, and I have the trust thing. So I guess the rule is like to trust myself, I guess if I had to say it.
That's awesome. Like that might be my favorite answer to this question yet. Given like I don't think that we've had anybody quite come out and say it. Just like trusting myself, right? I think that's amazing because it speaks about confidence too. I mean, especially if you have to weigh yourself against others and the opinions of others, right? And versus your own held self truths or however you want to term that. But do you think that translated over to helping you in the dance scene at all?
No, geez, that was way different. In terms of like my spirituality, I guess that's where for sure. With the dance thing, that's where a lot of like I very distrusted myself in that. Where for years I didn't like I didn't want to take off the training wheels, if that makes any sense. So that one was a lot harder to trust myself in. Yeah, it was. I was a lot more shyer, insecure, feeling, kind of just like with lower confidence in that one for sure. That one was something that where I've been barely, I haven't felt like I've trusted myself in terms of dancing up until most recently. Before I was like hiding it a lot, probably because of the trust. And then there's like where the lack of confidence comes in that thing. Yeah. But in terms of my spirituality, ever since my early teens, that's when if you want to call it God or like the Holy Spirit or the universe or whatever you want to call it, that's when I started knowing that, okay, this is without a shadow of a doubt, because it was just um I was getting the information from all angles where I could not ignore it, where like it was obvious that you know I knew that I had my own path. And then so like I knew I couldn't help it.
Because of the synchronicities?
Yeah, because of the synchronicities. Yeah. And it was just, and then just with people call them downloads, I guess now, but it's just like the like I would call them more like epiphanies. Like you would get these epiphanies where afterwards I would be dumbstruck, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And then you just come to these terms and you get these epiphanies. And then they all get tied together with what's happening. I would get, like for like the TV going along with what I'm looking at, like either on a book, and then it's going on. Like I would get all these synchronicities all tying, like talking about the same one thing, and then from all angles, and then or the themes that I would have. Like if I was thinking about a certain like archetype, that certain archetype would make itself known to me that whole day. Or if there was like a chakra, that it was like letting itself be known to me that whole day, or like that whole session. And it's like letting me know that it's its own thing. And then I'm like, oh my God, like there's like the energies of these things are so real. And then so I couldn't deny it. So that's why like I'm into energy so much. Like I'm a big person of energy, and I'm all about like dissecting energy and different concepts and stuff like that. Like yeah, that's what kind of gets me off.
Absolutely. I mean, the more you learn about it too, the more fun it becomes because it becomes more real, right?
Yeah, and the more comfortable you are with it, and then the more fun it gets after that. Because at first I'm just like, it was more just like being surprised by stuff, like oh crap, like oh cool, like more like epiphanies. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I'm starting to like I'm getting a better handle on all that stuff. So like I have more control, and then so I feel like I'm more in control of like my destiny, my fate, and so that feels nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 7. What is the most embarrassing or humbling experience of your life?
All right. Well, I'll give you a 2-for-1. So pretty bad. I can't believe I want to say it, but all right. So the most embarrassing, it's just embarrassing. So I'm going to say it. So a couple of years ago, I had gone to GNC and I bought this it was like this heavy duty shit. It was like to get bigger. It was like this mass building, blah blah blah. You know how they try to upsell you over there. Back then I was falling for it. And so they gave me this bulking protein powder mixed with God knows what. It had a bunch of shit in it. And the first day that I took this protein supplement crap, I took it at my house. I don't even know what time of the day it was, but I took it, and the next thing you know, freaking about like 5 or 10 minutes later, I thought I had a safe fart to let out, and no, there was nothing safe about that fart. And so I sharted on myself, and thank God that I was in my house, because if I was in the gym, holy shit, I don't know what the hell I would have done, because I would have wanted to get rid of, because I had to throw all that stuff away. I did. And so like if I was out in public, holy shit, I don't know how I would have made it out. I would have been super duper embarrassed. So at least at least this is just embarrassing between us. So I'll take that.
This is a private conversation.
Yes. I'll be okay with. So that was pretty embarrassing for me, but you know, and humbling, I guess, kind of embarrassing too, but it's more humbling for sure. After I'd gotten a DUI, that was a pretty bad one. I was on the Bay Bridge, and I was not even sure what I was doing over there, but yeah, I got caught up with a lot of stuff, and I had to do the whole lawyer thing because for this and this and that. And so luckily that one kind of panned out somewhat okay. I had a good lawyer and all that, but I had to go through a bunch of stuff with like getting like a breathalyzer in my car, and then you got to take the classes for God knows how long, and so yeah, I had to deal with like a lot of stuff. And the whole court thing, you had to do the court, you had to do the classes, breathalyzer, all that stuff, and then you had to cater that like around your job, because it was like that thing was like that, like a damn near like a second job going to all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like dealing with all that. Yeah, my freaking breathalyzer would break somewhat often, I think, and I had to try to get it fixed, because if not, you couldn't like start your car. It was a whole thing, man. That shit was hella humbling, to not take certain like things like that for granted.
Yeah, and to see how much the system can jerk you around, right? Because I've been not with DUI, but I've been arrested for possession of cannabis. So
Yeah,
I've had not an experience, right?
yeah. No, what's funny was, I don't know. I must have had a really cool, or at least one of them for sure was cool. But I had like two jars of stuff, like two big jars of stuff, and they didn't take it away. And when I got my car later on, because I knew I had that stuff in my middle console, and what they did is they put that stuff and they put it in my trunk. So later on, I found it in my trunk. I'm like, oh, they didn't steal my weed. That's cool, man. So that was kind of cool.
Silver lining, right?
Yeah, that was like the one little cool part, just the one tiny little cool part amongst all that shit that I had dealt with. But you don't want to be caught up in that stuff, because God knows what I could have done. Like, I thank goodness I didn't like kill anyone. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's
Is-
dangerous for sure.
yeah, man. So that was something that's very humbling because
Yeah.
I had to deal with a lot of shit for that.
Well, thank you for sharing both of those experiences.
Yeah.
All right. Next
That's
question.
crazy.
What's that?
Yeah. Oh, nothing. I was just talking about my stream went to shit, so that's weird how it all kind of happened at the same time. But yeah. But anyway, at least you're good, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, we can send you a copy of it too.
Yeah.
For
No
sure.
worries. As long as you're good, I'm a happy camper, bro.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. What is your greatest fear? How did you overcome it?
All right. Well, this one I guess is a two-parter because the very first thing that comes to my mind is death, but that doesn't really. I feel like that doesn't compute no more. Uh, for the longest time, I was afraid. I knew I was afraid of dying away, and I knew if it wasn't conscious, it was at least subconscious for sure. I knew it, or whatever. So, um, man, between having experiences with like mushrooms, that was, I think, a huge thing that made me face death because I literally faced it on numerous occasions. Uh, like the first time that I did it, I told someone recently that I felt like, no, not that I felt, I literally went to my own funeral. Like, as weird as that sounds, like I was out of my own body, but I could see what it was like when I died. And then just like, it just like I went to my own funeral, but I was outside my body. And other times too, I felt like I was going through the death process. And so for me, what a mushroom trip is equated to is it's like you're dying. Like once you peak, that's like the peak of the death. And then after that, you're coming back down to come back down to earth, or that means you're coming back down to get back alive. And so there's a lot of stuff like you're kind of like outside your body when you're in the middle of all that, or at least I for sure was. Like I was outside of my body, like I was outside of this. I don't know how far outside I was, but I was definitely not where I normally am. And something about that must have it gave me a lot of I felt like it gave me a lot of years of like therapy in a sense that I did all in one shot. But God knows how much therapy I did in a sense. And one of the things, because to me, it was like a tool to die. Like it felt like one time I literally felt and I saw it, I had X's in my eyes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like out right now. Like, what the hell? And so I think that's one big reason why that helped me out to help me with my fear of death. And then the other one more recently was just, through the years of it's just acquiring information, that knowing that there's so much more beyond this, like when you're done here, and there's so much of a transition, and there's a lot to it. And then so with that also that makes me really happy. Like that makes me very content. So I'm like, oh no, there's like so much more beyond, and there's always going to be so much more of this. So that kind of helped me out too, with coming to grips with that.
Yeah,
And yeah, so that was, so I mean, I don't really feel like that too much anymore. Now it's I think a fear, and I know it's ego based, I get obviously, but it's that I guess I don't want to be like a disappointment. Like I don't want to feel like I disappointed people, or that I guess that to be like a disappointment in a way, to like I guess I must have these inner expectations, and to not fulfill them. That's to be able to not fulfill them and to not have people benefit from that. I guess that's a fear. But that's where trust comes in, right? So I'll come back with the trust, because I just know, like I said in the beginning of that rant, that's ego based. So that's like kind of like an ego based thing for sure. But yeah, but that's something that I have to still process in my head, because at that point, I have to let myself know that, hey, man, it's about the journey. Like, don't be so fixated on the actual stuff. Like that, like whatever you want, that stuff will come in its way, you know? And so that's why I'm just like trying to keep myself to be more about the journey instead, you know? And that kind of keeps me like level headed and more grounded, you know? It's like
Yeah.
the same with working out, you know. It's the same thing with like the gym. Like the people that are fixated on results and like every day you're like looking in the mirror or you're stepping on the scale every day or whatever. That stuff is not, you know, like that stuff, like don't be in it for that, man. Just be in it for the whole thing. And then you can weigh yourself and then you can look in the mirror. But don't be just fixated on that stuff because then it's gonna like it's like it's ungrounding, you know, it'll kind of kill the flow too.
Yeah, because it's like going back to the time conversation about like wanting results and like because we want to be effective, right? That's what I think it boils down to is wanting to make a difference. And I think a legacy might come in to this topic a little bit. But I think having a podcast helps with that.
Yeah. No, that's how I feel about this. You know, it's like that's how I feel about it. And it's like partly that, but if I think about that too much, then I'll start to like I'll mind fuck myself into getting like anxiety. So I try to not think about that too much. What I try to do is I'm using this as like one big learning tool. So it's like right now I'm learning by rapping with you guys and by jiving with you guys. And then just anytime I have stuff to express, like this is stuff that I can look back on and learn from. And then as I'm doing it, I'm learning as I'm doing it too. So I'm learning as I'm doing it. And then later on when I reflect on it. So it's like, this is going to be like a huge tool, you know, for me, like a huge kind of a tool that you use in terms of like documentation. And then there's like a lot of benefits from that, you know, like just for me alone, you know? So yeah. So I try to see it like that as like I'm just learning here like one big thing. You know, I'm just a student of the game.
Absolutely. And I also like that you were out of body at your own funeral, just because we have a bonus question that we sometimes use in the show about
Yeah.
what you hope people would say at your own funeral. So it's kind of neat that you got to see that on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm definitely like there's something about me that's very like it's like the Saturn in me. Like I'm very about like I'm very about like death or something. Like something about death like I resonate with. I know it sounds so weird, but but if you embrace if you embrace like the Saturnian archetypes, that just comes with the territory, you know, of like understanding the underworld. And so it's something that I resonate with, you know. I know it sounds kind of weird, but
Huh?
yeah, but so wait, so you were saying something that they would say about me?
Oh, yeah, that was what the bonus question was. What do you hope others say?
What would they say about me? Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
while you were.
well, I mean, I want to be loved, obviously, like everyone else. So, I I would want to be known for. I would want them to say that I help people, and then and that I like to have fun. Uh, yeah, in my ways, whether it's like through things like dancing or like just talking and partying or just any random like just mundane, typical, you know, practical stuff to say that I like to have fun, but also that I help people and that I touch people, even if I didn't know it. I I mean, I guess I would like to be able to touch people in a way inside that helps people give that helps with at least some insight or like a spark, you know. I'm all about like a spark. Like I when I think of that, I think of like illumination, and so I think of like a spark of a mind, and then we all have a spark inside of us that's like alive and lit, and it's small, but it's like a small little spark, a spark plug. It's like it's what starts the car, right? And so with that little spark, it's so like that's where all the shit is, like the essence of the light. And then so if I could ever help spark someone's curiosity or help spark someone's insight, or spark their soul, I guess, like that would be, for me, that's like, like priceless type of shit,
Yeah, to be inspiring.
Yeah, for sure.
What is your single greatest driving force in life, and how do you further it?
Well, it's my connection to source. That's it. Because as soon as in the middle of your questioning, in my head, I was thinking, okay, well, what's the biggest thing? It would be the biggest thing that I know. So what's the biggest thing that I know? And so it's the whole source, whatever you want to call that, And so with that source, we can, in a sense, we can kind of do whatever we want. If we think about it in that way, you can say that. But what I think is more important than that is a genuine, authentic connection where both of you guys can feel each other and both of you guys can know each other. And then at that point, you really know who you are, because that's where know thyself comes into play. And I think that is foundational for me. And with that comes the fun part of like the synchronicity, because then that's the part that gets me off in my day. Like when I see certain themes in my day keep hitting over and over and over again, and I can't let it go. And then I pull a tarot card and it's still hitting the same themes, and the radio and the this and that, and people talking to me, and it's all like alluding to the same shit. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and so it lets me know that there's like a culmination that's so much bigger than me, that that I can tap into and that I am tapped into. And then to see the results and in like the fruits of your labor, that's what really sustains it for me. That's kind of like my reward. And then that's what kind of keeps me going. Yeah. So at that point, like, I feel like I don't need nothing else, because I'm living the authenticity of like the journey that's a partnership, the partnership with me and my source. Yeah.
Because you've established a conversation. There's a two-way communication. If you're paying attention to synchronicities and everything like this, I mean, it absolutely makes everything else more interesting, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like a responsibility, because I can, I can be a bit of a control freak in a way. And so this really helps with that, because then I know that there's so much that's out of my control in a sense. There's a lot that I can control, and there's also a lot that I cannot, that's not with that per se. And then so it helps me out. It helps me to be able to be at ease and to like let my guard down, because over here on earth, you do want to have your guard up in a way, especially if you're sensitive. You do want to have your guard up. You do want to know about boundaries and stuff. But at the same time, there's a balance. You have to be able to know how to put your guard down too. And so so that helps me with that for sure.
The middle path, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Hedging my bets, like whether you're betting basketball or football, or whether you're, at the roulette table, or, you know what I mean? If you can hedge your bets and keep it above 50%, you'll be a winner. As long as you're more than 50%, you'll be a winner, because it's hard to win in Vegas, or it's hard to win in, most of those players that play all these things, like those professional sports bettors, their percentage is really from 60 to 65%. So it's not even like they're at hundreds or 90s or 80s. They're just a little bit over 50, but they consistently ride that out. So if you consistently ride that out a bunch of times, then you're going to for sure be a winner, as long as you're over that 50%, technically, you don't take too many hits. So yeah.
It's, you said being able to write it out too. I mean, being able to stick with it and see it through the end. That's important too, right?
Yeah, because you're gonna get hit. You know what I mean? I think about poker. I might go shit, between us, I might go. I haven't played in a while, but I might go to play some cards at the poker room. I might go tomorrow morning to play a little bit. And one thing you want to be able to do is hang with like. There's gonna be bad luck in a sense, because even if you make like the correct moves, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna leave home a winner. So you still need to be able to have enough in your bankroll to be able to sustain the hits. And then as long as you stick to your game and you get it that over 50%, whatever that is, that consistency, as long as your consistency is over the half, you'll end up a winner throughout the week or by the month's end. You know what I mean? You kind of got to have a little bit of a long-term picture for that kind of stuff. But
Exactly. Yeah, I was just thinking long. It's got to be a long-term.
yeah, you can't be so fixated on that initial day or that initial session. And yeah, that's kind of like my approach to like energy and like even like magical concepts is yeah, like neutrality for me is like a superpower or something like that. Yeah, I think neutrality is like a humongous tool that you could use to especially here because there's duality here. And then before, when I was like, under the A Course in Miracles stuff, it was funny. I heard someone say occult and miracles. Isn't that funny? Occult and miracles. When I was heavy in the occult and miracles, it's like you're gonna be so much on the right side that you're gonna like shun the left, like But we have two hands, you know what I mean? And they each have their own purpose, like we have two sides of a brain. They each have a purpose. So I don't want to keep shunning myself. I want to embrace all of myself. And I think a part of what I'm supposed to do is embrace that so I can learn how to maneuver through these things and kind of basically master them. I want to be able to master myself.
Self-mastery. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Question number 10. Who were or are your role models and why?
Well, sheesh. I guess the people that come in my head are my dance OGs, my men. Like there are people that I knew that I still know, like in real life, because there's mentors that you see, like either people that have written books or people that are super deep into like spirituality and stuff. And so I could say like they're heroes in a way too, or mentors in a way too, for sure, because I've learned so much from so many people. I wouldn't be able to even wrap my head around it, right? But I guess it's different when you know someone and you build relationships with certain people and that have taken care of you and extended their heart out to you. And so there's dance OG mentors from here, from San Francisco and from Oakland that embrace me, that I could say that I'm friends with, and so to me they're like heroes because these guys, if you see what they do, and I've seen what they've done, whether we go into a club or whether they go to a party or whether they go to an event, like say we have like in the summer there'll be events in San Francisco. They call them Juneteenth, like these big old festivals, in the streets, and they have like parades and they have like performances and all that. And when my OGs go to a certain area, they stop the show. They stop everybody in their tracks, and everyone has to pay attention to them. That's just the type of energy that they got. They're true entertainers, and they stick out, and they always they end up captivating everyone. So that's something that like I fell in love with because they had this showmanship, this like star quality where they would end up stealing the show wherever they were at. Wherever they were at, they would be stealing the show per se. And so I look up to that a lot. Yeah. So to be able to have personality and to be good at it and confident like that, and to be a smart, because it's like you have to be smart, because what they're really doing is they're really working with energy. That's what took me a while to get, is that they're like masters of energy, these OGs. Like the powers that I've seen them exhibit have been jaw dropping. And what's funny is that that stuff, they only do it between us, or like when it's more small circle. Like the stuff that they've done in bigger shows, like that's just more like their show stuff. And then they have other more power moves that they'll do just when you're more in an intimate setting. And then that's when you know, like, holy shit, these guys are like masters. At least they've mastered something, because they know how to use their energy in crazy magical ways. Kind of reminds me of like the qigong people. You know how they're manipulating, like they're harnessing energy and they're making it flow. These guys have their own version of that, and they just made it funky though. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's cool that you brought up Qigong because that's exactly what came in my head when you said that they captivate people and they steal the show. It's like they're working with energy, like crowd energy, right? And like
Yeah,
dancing is breath to movement, and that's exactly what yoga is. Some yoga, right?
hell yeah.
So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I love yoga. No, but even well, tell me not. Even the qigong, like the old Chinese man at the park at like 9 a.m. when you're walking by, walking your dog, that guy steals the show. People walking on the sidewalk, they're all staring at those people in the park practicing. Like they steal the show because they're working the chi. They're working the chi. Like they know what it is. And there's secrets to those arts. Just how I'm sure there's secrets to Tai Chi and all that. There's secrets to the dance arts too that you have to that you end up getting to know about. Yeah. So it's like that's what makes it beautiful, because then you see it's like a craft.
Yeah, and it was breath actually the first topic that you covered on your podcast.
Yeah. It was what did I call it? It was something about synchronizing, something like I was just talking about to be able to catch up to your own breath, because we all have like a natural rhythm that everyone has on their own. Just how your heart's beating right now on its own natural rhythm, right? And sometimes we either force it too quick, which means we have an excess of chi at the moment, or sometimes we like go to shallow breathing or stop breathing, which is the opposite, where you have low amounts of chi, like slow chi. And if you can find the equilibrium, the neutrality between that chi, then you'll quote unquote catch up to your breath. It's that you'll hit your natural synchronization of your natural breath. And then that's where I think a lot of magic happens, because it's all about like being in the present, right? Because then if you're not, you're going to be in your own head too much, and then you'll be either in the past too much or you'll be in the future too much. And that all goes back to my boy. He always says, don't pop in your mind. Don't do it in your mind, because then you're going to be all in the past or all in the future. And
that's when you get in the present is when you get those downloads too, right?
Yeah,
or the
because it just happened. Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah, because those things, they just happen. Like when I get those little epiphanies or whatever, they're not like I was aiming for them. Like they just like it ended up. It was just. And then so yeah, so that I love that. That's like beautiful to me.
What quality do you most admire in a woman?
Nice. Well, besides talking about the typical, like the practical things, I guess I like to start with like first, before you get to any of that, I think the mind has to be free, or at least fairly liberal. If you're going about your life and you have this freedom in your mind, that's going to translate to the authenticity. And then there's like a carefree swagger that person will have. And at that point, then that's what makes them attractive, because they're just being themselves. And yeah, because I think everyone has something to offer in their own way. And then so you can find, like, there's beauty in pretty much everything if you put the right, if you put the right scope on it. And I think the scope has to do with like a free mind where you're not super self-conscious or holding yourself back, or you have a lot of a lot of kind of like a lot of stigma in your head, you know, that holds you back or that kind of makes you think you have to do something. And so I think if they do their work, because the only way to kind of be free like that is to do your inner work, right? So when I see someone that's free in their mind and that has that carefreeness about them, I know that they've done inner work, and I think that's where it's at. I think that's where it's the tops, and then you can see the beauty in everyone like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that answer. I love how you were able to connect. You made all the connections, like from the mind all the way down into the swagger, right? So you brought it all the way from like the ideal down to the physical, and it's absolutely true. You can see, people's energy introduces them before they even walk into a room, right? So
Yeah.
you can just
Yeah,
tell.
because like we all have, you know, we're all perfect in our own way. You know, even with our imperfections, we're still all perfect in a way. And so you can't say that someone doesn't have something to offer, you know. And so with, you know, because we're all made of the same stuff, and so it's just a matter of chiseling, you know, kind of like how an artist might sculpt this, you know, something like it's like chiseling away yourself, and then you'll end up when you come into your own. I think that's when that's like the best, you know. Yeah.
And then you can express it too, like with oh,
Yeah, because you're carefree in your mind, you're able to let yourself be.
right.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's because I mean, I don't know, man. I just think I think stuff got a lot more polarized like the last couple of years. And so you can really tell someone that has a lot of stigmas in their head. It's like very prevalent now. Like it lets itself be known really quick within the first minute of meeting someone or talking to someone. And so that's why whenever I get, you know, someone who feels authentic, I'm like, yeah, there you go. That's that breath of fresh air. You know
Right?
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, as long as you're following your, like, there must be something to following your soul urge. If, you know, if you're being free and then you're following your soul urge, then you must be doing something right, you know, and then you'll shine with that, you know, and then that's where it's at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What is the most courageous thing you've ever done or seen in your life?
Hmm. Hmm. Courageous. Hmm. Oh, sheesh. Well, I mean, the one thing I can talk about for now, um, I guess for myself is I've been known to that if one of my friends or family members, if they're going to get caught in some like drama, I'll be the one to step in it for them. I would want to take on whatever they're taking on. You know, whether it was my brothers getting into like if they were gonna get into like a fight with someone that I would or like some of my best friends, then I would put myself in the way and I would make it my situation at that point. So I guess that's kind of courageous. You know, that's like my Mars archetype side of being a like a protector, kind of like that. That's where that side comes out from.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah.
we want to protect those that we love. I mean, that's absolutely.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I just feel kind of weird about saying courageous because at that moment I didn't feel courageous about it. I just felt like I don't know. I didn't have to even think too much about it. That's just the way that I went with it. You know, that was just what happened. But let me think about something where I felt that someone was courageous. Let me see. Well, I guess I still go back to my dance mentors because the times when I've gone on a small stage, it was some of the most nerve-wracking shit ever. And jitters and your mind is racing and all these and there's like an audience and the whole thing. And when I've seen these people go and just like take the stage and like basically manhandle the stage and like own it and like that, to me, that was very courageous to be able to do that on a stage with like a live audience or a bunch of people at an event or something.
Is it just because the stage is small and there's just one person doing an act, or is it the number of people that's watching? Like the proportions are off, or
I just think it's just that you're on a stage and like the amount of people and that yeah, and like the spotlight, that all eyes are on you. Yeah, because I'd get like a stage fright, or like I would get like my nerves would get really ramped up. And then to be able to see people that like actually embrace the hell out of those moments, like they would embrace those moments, like they would be like, yeah, like they would like go to those moments like head first. To me, that was courageous because I would be coming from the other end of like very hesitant, very like conscientious about myself, but they were going in there gung ho, like guns a blazing, So to me, that was I'm still like wrapping my head around that because those are things that I still need to work on myself with too, pretty much, because I can only imagine if they throw me out there, I'll be like, oh man, like I would make myself do it, but man, I know I'd be nervous as hell, at least for me, man.
it kind of reminds me of like public speaking or like stand-up comics almost too. I mean, obviously, public
Exactly.
speaking,
Yes.
but
I would compare it to stand-up comedy. Yeah, there's like a part of me that like it's funny too because when I was like in high school, I would be like I remember saying this in Spanish class. I was like, I think I'd be able to have a radio show. Like I think I would do pretty okay as a radio dude, right? And another thing that I told myself because I was kind of a class clown is that, oh man, like I would like stand-up comedy. I was like, I'm kind of like a funny guy. Like people just laugh at me. Like they could just laugh at me, But man, I haven't really thought about stand-up comedy because just thinking about the stage and then you gotta come with the set, you know what I mean? You gotta come with the heat. And then after getting a small taste of the stage that I've had, the small little taste that I've had, I'm like, oh my God, like you have to be invested to be willing to get out there like that. You got to be mentally invested the whole nine. Yeah. And so I'll definitely compare it to like stand-up comedy, for sure.
going back to working with energy though too. I mean, that's a lot of you got a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs on you, right?
Yeah.
That feeling in your
Man,
body.
dude, like you'd have to do so much grounding or something. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if those pros, if those professional comedians, I wonder if they even ground themselves or like what they do before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do they get the incense out or what do they do? You know what I mean? Like, but
Like they've all got their own
yeah,
methods.
yeah. Well, what I've seen from my small glimpses is that like those real entertainers, they live for that stuff. Like they eat it up. They eat it. They eat it up. Me being, I guess, with my like when I break my numerology down, I have a lot of the two. Like my expression number is a 2, right? And so a part of a 2, even though for me it's 11, but an 11 is a 2. So part of my 2 is timid. Like that's one thing that they would say in numerology books is they would relate the number 2 to being timid, and that's because you're in this spot and that spot, right? Like I want to do this, but also don't want to do this. You know what I mean? So that's like something I'm like very polarizing in that way. Is like I have the urges to like be on a stage. I have the urges to be like to be a showman or to showcase myself. And at the same time, I have the exact opposite urge to like, hell no, like run, like don't show them none of that. You know what I mean? So I that's like in my nature to deal with these two aspects. But I guess it's there because I have to face it. Like I have to face it. That's like something and that's what this podcast stuff is like you're facing yourself, you're putting yourself out there, and as time goes on, I've been less and less shy and hesitant to express myself, and to put myself out there.
Yeah, well said. I mean, that's what I've found myself doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, man. yeah, it helps with the well-roundedness. You gotta well-round yourself. And so that's something that I noticed. It's like, all right, well, I always gotta like something in me, like just the way that a part of my personality is. I end up attacking my biggest flaws. So that's why through the years I've worked on like my temperament and like my patience and and like my boundaries of trust. And so yeah, so that's like something else too, is like the whole embarrassment of putting myself out there. That's something that I've had to realize, like, hey man, when it's time, because if one day you get a call to do something, I can't say no. I'm not going to say no. So you just got to do it. And then sometimes people fall on their face, and that probably comes with the territory. Sometimes you might crash and burn, or you might, whatever, or hit a flop. But hey, I guess that's kind of a part of the game. So
Yeah, it's a process, right? So
yeah.
learning.
Yeah, it's like a part of like earning your stripes. Sometimes you got to eat it. Sometimes you're gonna have to eat it, and whatever, and fall on your face. In the process of expressing yourself like that.
Part of the game. Right?
Yeah.
All right. This brings us to the capstone question. Question 13. If you could give one sentence of advice to future generations, what would it be?
All right. So with this one, it's a little. It's gonna sound kind of funny, but it really means a lot to me. This is something that. When did this come to my head? This came to my head like in a road trip years ago. I think I was driving to Mexico. I mean, I wasn't driving maybe with my family, like a family trip, a long time ago. And I was realizing, because you have so many hours on the road, and a lot of time in quiet, or in like a lot of quiet time on the road. And I would realize that I would have all these thoughts, and I could see how they're like separate from me in a way, even though I had them. And then I was realizing the separateness of them. After this, I realized, and I was telling myself after this, like, oh, like in terms of the ego, it's like the ego is making you think you have to do something. Like, I think, like anytime you're talking like that you think you have to do something, you don't. And then if anything, it should be probably the opposite. Like, you just got to kind of think about it a little bit more, because nowadays, people talk about the ego, how, like we kind of make it more like, we'll talk about it in terms of the actual stuff. Like, oh, my ego had me, prideful, or, oh, my ego had me embarrassed, or, oh, my ego had me greedy or self-centered. Right. But, I think before that, the ego made you think you have to do something. And I don't believe that's true at all. You don't have to do anything. You don't think you have to do something. That's just your ego thinking you have to do something. So my advice would be is that if you think you have to do something, you don't necessarily have to do it. And if anything, it might be contrary to what you've been thinking about this whole time, especially if it's like the brooding type of thoughts, or the thoughts that kind of like pile on and feel kind of like antsy and like that, and feel kind of desperate. We don't have to do anything. We just are. And so that's kind of where I'm coming with that, because I realize I'm like, because at that point the ego can come up with any new word or any new phrase or any new sentence to make you think a new thing. Oh, now I think I have to do this, or now I think I have to do that. No, you don't have to think anything. It just is, and it will just happen. And then once you kind of like get in touch with that thought, I think that's where I've learned about how to hop in neutrality, because then you're like observing yourself, but you're still letting yourself have those thoughts. I'm still letting those thoughts come out, but I found a way to hop in neutrality, and that's like a safe space, like a safe place. And then from there, I feel like I can navigate myself and like my true my true thoughts and my true urges from there, Yeah, because the urges can get disguised by the ego. It's like it's very good at that. Very, very pretentious at that, and very, very good at that. Yeah.
That is kind of like speaks to me. It speaks to the difference between being and doing, because like the ego wants you to do stuff, right? You're always taking action, whereas
Yeah.
if you, like you were saying, to hop in your neutrality, like center yourself, and then that's where the being is. That's what's important, right? Not
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
doing.
because the beam, hell yeah. Yeah, because the beam is alive. That's where the life is. And so that's what kind of keeps us honest, if you will. It keeps us alive is the beingness. And then the other stuff is just kind of like the tools or the arsenals that we use to play around, But before I was rolling with that stuff too much, and then I had to realize to kind of stop myself, to that way I don't get wrapped up in my own head, because that was like a tendency that I would have, is I would be so wrapped up in my head that I would end up losing my present. So yeah.
Tripping. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't think. Yeah, the ego just thinks you think you have to do something. That's that we don't have to do shit.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's easier. It's a lot more relaxing to think that way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I used to struggle with like the fear of missing out, right?
The FOMO.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Something I had to rein in. So yeah, it can be tricky sometimes, but it definitely pays off.
Yeah, it's yeah, it just kind of helped me, because I realized that, like, oh, why am I trying to persuade myself so much? Like I don't need to be persuaded for anything. You know what I mean? So I ended up realizing it's like kind of like a trick. When you're like trying to persuade yourself so much. Like, no, I don't need to persuade myself.
Right. Well,
Right.
Louie, I really enjoyed finding and listening to your podcast. Do you want to tell the listeners where they might be able to do the same?
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, my podcast is called Uncanny Mystic Minds. Uncanny Mystic Minds podcast. And I'm on pretty much most major platforms. Like if you Google it, I'm sure you'll find a good handful of them. Like like there's like Apple and the other ones. I like Spotify because you can watch. I have some videos on there. I just barely started doing the YouTube. I just put up on my latest episode where I had an interview. I just barely started putting up the YouTube. So I got one there, but you can even on my IG, you can just type up Uncanny Mystic Minds, and I think on my bio there's a thing where you can click in there. It'll take you to Spotify. I'll put up stories like that too, where you can click it. So yeah, if people want to listen to it, I appreciate it, because I'm doing it for myself, but I'm also doing it for everyone else. And if people want to connect and want to build, I'm all for that. I just want to gain, because I know from each other, from all of us, we can all gain. Like everyone has something to offer. That's how I see it, whether you know it or not. Because even if you don't like what they have to offer, you know that there's the opposite. Like you can take the opposite from them. So there's like someone always has something to offer. Since there's no coincidences, that's probably maybe what you had to have at that moment. And so yeah, that's kind of how I see it. And so yeah, even with you, I appreciated talking to you guys.
Yeah.
In the future, you guys, I'm definitely be open to having you guys too, for sure, because you guys are really cool, really really chill people. I like your shirt, because your shirt is like what I have in my background. I don't know if you noticed that. Look at that, the tree of life and the tree of life. Isn't that funny?
Synchro. To be expected now at this point.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's been awesome. We'll definitely stay in touch. I'm going to put all the links to your work in the show notes for the listeners. And yeah, dude, thank you for carving out some time on Saturday to spend with us.
Hell yeah, bro. I appreciate you guys. Yeah. I know for you guys, it's a little bit even later, because I was like, man, I don't want to ask for it too late, because then I just figured, like, I don't want you guys having to start a podcast at like 10, 11 o'clock. I was like, fuck, that's like, wait, like, I felt bad for you guys. I was like, I'm not going to put you guys through that. I was like, let me just try to, I think I can wing 6 o'clock, even though I had earlier crap to do, earlier stuff to do. But I was like, oh, I can wing 6. So I'm glad we were able to come together. And yeah, for sure. If you're open for it, I'd definitely like to rap with you guys. You guys are, my kind of people as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll end up having cool little talks later on for sure, man.
Hell yeah, I would love that.
Hell yeah.
Adam, do you have any last thoughts for our guest? Or?
No, just a giant thank you for taking your time to share your wisdom with us.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I feel it from the heart, man. I appreciate that. And I'm all about genuine things like that, genuine consideration. So I deeply appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, dude. I would like to send some stickers to you. So if you would like, send me your address on Instagram, and I'll mail you some stickers.
Hell yeah.
For the show.
Send me some stickers, bro.
We'll do that.
Hell yeah. I'll find a cool spot for them.
All right, man. We will be in touch.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I'll see you guys sooner than later, all right?
Awesome.
All right. Absolutely.
For sure. Appreciate you. All right. Now.
Why is one man rich and another man poor? Why we ain't satisfied? Why we gotta have more? Why your suicide rates on the rest so high? Why I tell you the truth but you say don't lie? Why is being a good father at an all-time low? Why is it acceptable? Yo, why I don't know. Why she blame him and he blame her? It's useless. Ask yourself this question. Why you making excuses? Why do parents gotta bury their kids? Why we text and drive, not caring how scary it is? Why it's so hard to forgive and leave the past behind? And if you did, then that's divine. Why don't you help your brother when you see him fall? Why do we act like God don't see it all? Why do we call them black, them white, them Asians and use labels? Now that's racism. I don't wanna why? 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 Why is there innocent people locked up for life, while some people can't say nothing nice? Why do we always gotta question what all of it means? And why won't you follow your dreams? Tell me why. The night when you took my dad, why'd you let me see my grandpa cry? And tell me why. And why do you choose to hide, even though you was born to fly? And tell me why. And why don't we turn from all the hate? And why don't we learn from all mistakes? Why do I keep on wrecking these fat beats? And teachers don't make more than professional athletes? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? I don't wanna 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 why?
This should be considered entertainment and not therapy. We hope you benefit from our resources available at 13questionspodcast.com. Thank you for listening.